to the school board for meeting with us today. I know the calendars are pretty busy and we weren't able to meet earlier, but this is, I guess, as good a moment as any. Now we have more information in front of us, so maybe the conversations can be more meaningful, hopefully. I want to welcome again the chair and the vice chair and all the members of the school board. A special welcome to Dr. King, and glad to see you here and all of your staff as well. So the manager has just presented his budget to his proposed budget to the city council, and we have seen your proposed budget, and we know we're all coming together to see how we can make this thing fit. And so in that spirit, we're all trying to do the best for our children and for our taxpayers at the same time, because we want to have these discussions. You've got your hands full, and we do too. So having said that, Dr. King, or Dr. Houston, did you want to say something? I know you have a presentation. We'd be glad to hear from you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Frame and members of council. Good afternoon. We're pleased to have this opportunity to share a conversation with you and to give you an overview. As the mayor indicated, we did, of course, submit our budget back on March 30th, and we simply want to present some highlights of how we arrived where we are and what our needs, challenges, opportunities, and priorities are. And Dr. King will get into that in just a moment. But we began our process back in January, of course, after receiving the governor's proposed budget in December. Of course, our first order of business is to determine our budget priorities for the year. And our budget priorities were aligned directly with our district's priorities, which are located there in your packets. And those priorities guided our planning as well as dovetailing with our 5-year strategic plan, which we'll be rolling out this summer or fall. Although, as you all know, we face great challenges, we have as many opportunities as we do challenges to make our division a world-class educational system, and that is exactly what we endeavor to do. Our strategies and priorities, we feel, are directly in alignment with at least 3 out of the 6 of the city's priorities, specifically economic vitality and workforce development, lifelong learning, safe, healthy, and inclusive communities. And it's our belief and conviction that everybody benefits from increased graduation rates, and that addressing the high dropout crisis is a key strategy for economic growth. Years of research highlights the link between education and the economy. And so when we talk about economic vitality in the city, lifelong learning, safe, health, and inclusive communities, educating our children and preparing them to be lifelong learners, building a foundation for success will certainly contribute to not only an economically vibrant city, but also a city whose citizens value lifelong learning, and certainly it will increase the safety of our communities. It has been said that when you open a school, you close a prison. And so we believe that education is certainly the best investment on the front end that will prepare our young people to make Norfolk a city of choice for businesses and certainly for residents. Our superintendent will give an overview of a little bit about our budget process, more importantly, about what this budget we believe will accomplish for us, and then our director of finance will say a little bit more about our facts and figures. Dr. King.
Thank you, Dr. Houston, Chairman Houston. I also like to say thanks to Mayor Frank, also Vice Mayor Burford, as well as to the council and the remainder of our board and administration for being here, and for everybody's diligent efforts so far moving forward in this work that is of vital importance to us all in this room and beyond. I'll begin with, I think, an appropriate focal point around what we're doing, and I'll move very, very quickly here. But retaining an absolute faith in our students in terms of what we have to do going forward and the challenges, and pinpointing on the fact that it is non-negotiable and that children must prevail as we move forward. And in order to build the infrastructure for that to happen, you have to have the appropriate resources and variables in place to have it come to fruition. And as the quote says, through Jim Collins, good, great, someone that everybody in this room has great familiarity around, the same issue to confront the most brutal facts of our current reality, whatever they might be, because there are huge challenges moving forward as we have profiled our system in a way that we determine the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats around doing the work. To the point that if you see before you the current modified mission and vision statement, and I mention this because this has to be the appropriate setup for where we are and where we're going, because as everybody knows, when you build a budget, you have to build a budget around an aligned purpose and an aligned vision based on relevant, pertinent data that's going to mean moving student achievement forward for your children. So before you, you'll see a draft of the new mission vision statement, and I'm not going to read that to you except to pinpoint the fact that it is in two parts. And this is really the foundation around our proposed budget. Two parts, meaning it is visionary in terms of knowing that we must take a look into the future, as many have heard me say before, and determine the highest aspiration for our organization and simply begin to build strategies to take us there. Therefore, a 30-member microcosm of this community came together to develop the mission vision statement that you see before you, and they determined that our vision, which means our dream and where we should go, is to make this division the cornerstone of a proudly diverse community. That means that we're not there in the view of this group of stakeholders. However, we will begin to build strategies to take us there. Thus, the proposed budget that we will have some discussion around this afternoon. They also determined that the purpose of this school system has a two-part purpose. One is to ensure that each child is successful, to maximize their academic potential. Two, that they must be able to commingle, they must be able to coexist, they must be able to enter into the impact of group dynamics. Thus, you see developing skills for lifelong learning and successful contributors to a global society. And you see the means by which that is to be determined. Again, I will remind the group that this information was pinpointed by that group, and I was a member of the team, and board members served as members of the team as well to develop that. We also have guiding principles for our budget priorities. There are 5 of those. Of course, we want to ensure that we appropriately project the federal, local, and state revenue, as well as pinpoint student enrollment each year. What are the trends? What do we know about the numbers of students that will be in the seats next year, but not just next year, but going forward at least 3 to 5 years ahead of us, because that serves as will serve as an indicator for our work going forward. And aligning maximum staff efficiency, funding to benefit the classroom. In other words, all decisions should be made on the best interests of children. Also, appropriately balance the connection between revenue and expenditures. That's a no-brainer for us, as well as a very important, significant piece that we must continue program evaluation, ongoing formative and summative assessment of any items of implementation to determine the effectiveness and the efficiency of those items as it relates to moving student achievement forward. So that is ongoing for us. All of these things serve as the framework for building this particular budget. Lastly, we know that any of our allocations of resources must be solely aligned with the district's strategic plan, the 5-year strategic plan that we are very close to seeing complete, as well as this year's current priorities, 7 priorities that served as a blueprint for us this year. Before you, you see a snapshot of those 7 priorities. Many of you are already familiar with those. I'm not going to read those to you except to emphasize 1 and 2, because 1 and 2 are of vital importance, but each division priority is important. But you see that 1 and 2 send us on full accreditation, and we have begun that work this current year with strategic, specific items of implementation and action steps that have been important for us to begin to do the work. as well as increase academic achievement. That's moving student achievement forward, increasing the percentage of students that meet and exceed standards. In other words, teaching the curriculum, the standards of learning, and measuring how much learning is taking place from a formative standpoint early on, making decisions early on, which will allow us to change the current status of children early enough to make a difference by the summative standpoint. And so thus you see those 7 priorities that have really governed our work this current school year. I will shift gears to updating you very briefly on the 5 strategies that hundreds of people have been working around. We have action teams that are out in the community working on various big ideas that surface from these 5 strategies. But again, this team represents the community stakeholders, and you see 5 items of importance for the 5-year strategic plan. It is important to note that at the beginning of July 1, we'll begin implementation of year 1 for the 5-year strategic plan. Therefore, the proposal that you have before you around the budget is totally aligned with these strategies along with those 7 priorities. So there is definitely a method in the madness with what you see as far as action steps. Again, you see surfacing promoting the school system as the cornerstone of our community, a proud diverse community. Also, it speaks to facilitating meaningful family and community partnerships. Very important to have those wraparound services. Relentlessly pursuing engaged learning through high-quality instruction. Retaining the very best in the classroom and the very best building level leaders, as well as classified personnel, and hosting environments that are safe and secure. Always of paramount importance, and that goes without saying that we must always keep a finger on the pulse of what that means and build from where we are and move forward. Nurture a culture of excellence and equity and justice through continuous improvement. Those items really came to the forefront as it relates to planning for a 5-year period as we determine our status quo and project needs for the future. The current reality, however, is very important. And if you take a look at what you see on the screen, it gives you a profile of where this system is now as it relates to accreditation. And you heard us allude to challenges going forward, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So this budget is also built around the needs that you see here. How do we begin to transform the system? How do we begin to turn the tide? How do we begin to move this system towards becoming the world-class system that each of us would want for our children? At this point, we have 26 out of 33 elementary schools fully accredited. We have 2 out of 7 middle schools fully accredited. We have 3 out of 5 high schools fully accredited. So at the elementary level, 79% fully accredited. At the middle school level, 29% fully accredited. At the high school level, 60% fully accredited. That's the challenge going forward. Academic improvement, action steps. So what does that mean for this current year? What has happened so that we can give you hopefully a perfect setup for the information that's important for this fiscal year coming before us real soon. Academic improvement action steps, reading, comprehension, and writing, very important. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, as well as software initiatives that are important for that, because many of our students are not reading on grade level, they're reading below grade level. And in order to move them forward, you have to provide the necessary safety nets and interventions. Also acceleration to begin to see those students move forward as it relates to reading and writing. We know that our children must read on grade level by the end of 3rd grade in order to see a sense of success. And you know the statistics around children that do not read on grade level by the end of 3rd. That is what, in many cases, research shows that that's how we determine the number of prison cells that we need based on that. That's not a pretty reality in terms of being positive. However, it's a grim reality that is true. Current curriculum and assessments fully aligned to state standards. We are also pinpointing to ensure that what we teach in the classroom is absolutely what children need to know and be able to do. Mechanism is in place for that now, and that last bullet really pinpoints that, the cycle for results. We've begun implementation this year. We also have begun the provision of safety nets and enrichment, not only moving students that are struggling forward to own standard, then to exceeding, but also really pinpointing those students that are already on standard and exceeding, and beginning to provide the enrichment to move those students forward as well. So the entire spectrum is important to us, each child, no matter where they are at present. Improving staff development so that the people that need to make decisions around children know what to do at what period of time, and that they get better and better each day. Focus walks to inspect what we expect. Next, there's just a quick view of what that cycle for results means, and I would just draw your attention to the 5 questions of importance to the left. These are the things that we want to know about the business of the classroom. How much learning is taking place? Are the appropriate standards being taught and rolled out? If they are, what percentage of the students mastered the standards, internalized the standards, and actually excelled? And what did we do when children did not learn? What type of safety nets did we provide? What did we do when children excel? What type of enrichment did we provide? What does the teacher do when students are performing beyond expectation, and how do we know? Those are the things that were important for us this current school year and continue to be important for us. So, what are some snapshots around this current school year that really provided the initial intro for us in the building of this budget? How well have children performed from a formative standpoint this current year? We're not at the summative standpoint. We've not had the high-stakes test, nor do we have results as of yet, but we do have benchmarks that are aligned to the curriculum, and those benchmark assessments are designed to give us a snapshot. Also, common formative assessments that teachers develop are aligned to give us a snapshot around how well children are performing. We can say to you from a snapshot standpoint that the percentage of students this current year that tested proficient in 3rd grade reading, I mentioned that earlier, Q1 was only at 38%. And so that allows us to go back, take a look at each child as an individual. What are those domains of importance? What are those domains of challenge? What are those domains that were positive and advantageous? And so by doing so, providing the safety net, closing the gap around the deficient areas for children, allowed us to, at the Q2 standpoint, with the same type of assessment in reading, move to 62%. That is progress, but I hope everyone can really see and glean from this that the challenge continues. Although that's progress, we still have much to do to be able to provide the services that we need for the children to move them to the point of being able to compete globally, and also to begin to move this system forward at the level that's appropriate to become world class. Percentage testing proficient in algebra. So we move from elementary to a snapshot of where we are secondary wise. During Q1, 18% of our students, based on the curriculum that should have been taught, only 18% tested proficient early on. That snapshot is important. It doesn't mean that the ball game is over when you see that, but knowing it early means that we can shift gears and provide safety nets. When we provide safety nets, that means more time, that means more resources, that means more of a humanistic approaches as it relates to what we do for our students and our staff rather as well. But Q1, 18%, Q2, we moved to 44%. So good growth, good progress. However, 44% is not where the rubber meets the road. Although that is progress, that's not something that we feel we need to brag about, and we're not doing so. We know that we see some incremental growth and improvement here. So we also knew that we had to begin the work of overhauling the gifted education program, and we have done so. And we will have other students, additional students identified for gifted services that qualify through the rigorous standards that are out there, because we do know we have many additional students in our school division now that are not receiving gifted services that should. So thus the enrichment that's important. I draw your attention now to bringing us current to the proposed 2013-2014 budgetary highlights. I will say to you that the proposed 2013-14 budget is designed to position our division to begin the work of moving forward. It is designed to present to all of us a platform that is advantageous to our children and our staff in a way that it allows us to begin to work moving the system to become world-class in terms of how we prepare our children to be college and career ready. Therefore, you see on this first screen 4 items that you'll see that should really surface in this current budget, and also the outcomes. If you focus on nothing more than the outcomes, I think you get the job done, because in item number 1, it centers on literacy and numeracy coaches. You saw the figures around literacy and numeracy. That's the importance of that. And you see that we have anticipated outcomes for next year, and what would this glean and garner for us if we have this in place? It is our expectation that we ought to see at minimum a 10% increase in the percentage of students that will meet and exceed standards by implementing research-based strategies by having those things in place. Also, effectiveness in implementing our cycle, as well as the climate for job-embedded professional learning for administrators, for teachers, as well as classified. Secondly, sustaining class size initiatives. It is very important that we maintain the kind of structure and climate in the classroom that will be conducive to learning. And you see the outcomes that would allow the outcomes that we should secure by doing so. So you'll see those things in place in this current proposal, maximizing opportunities for student-teacher engagement. Simply put, making the teacher the facilitator of providing instruction, which is what should be done in the classroom, because you allow more one-on-one services for children that need it, enrichment, as well as remediation or safety nets. Providing additional safety nets, I mentioned that already. You see the outcomes to the right. Improving climate and safety in schools. That's a no-brainer and non-negotiable. Decreasing out-of-school suspension. If we don't have our students with us, we can't teach them. So what are those alternatives to suspension that we need to provide, and how do we fund that? And also a part of the highlight will be item 5, increasing academic rigor. Not only are we concerned with safety nets and moving students that are struggling to on standard, but we're also extremely concerned with those students that are already on standard and moving those students to a higher level of learning and have them exceed the standard, as well as those students that are already classified as gifted. And how do we meet the needs of those children? Therefore, within this proposal, you find those things are there and are of extreme importance as well. You see a 10% increase in the percentage of students exceeding, not just meeting, but exceeding, and also improving climate and job embedded as well. AP courses, advanced placement opportunities, having more opportunities for those children that qualify, because we have done the studies and we know that based on our PSAT indicators that we have more children that qualify for advanced placement coursework that do not receive it at this point. That means that we need additional training for teachers to be advanced placement endorsed, as well as additional time for those children to receive those services. Recent technology, I'll say that all of the assessments, as I'm sure you know, all of the summative assessments and high-stakes assessments at this point are required to be given to students online. That's not something that we volunteered to do. It's a state requirement. So if students are going to be required to take summative assessments online, then we have to do what we need to do to prepare them for such assessment. And in many cases, there were many examples where our schools could not house that from an infrastructure standpoint, so we've begun to make those changes. Attracting and retaining highly qualified staff, very important. We want to move to 100% highly qualified. We're at 99% at this point. Decreased staff turnover, supporting professional learning, 2% raise increase, ongoing climate analysis, and continued staff recognition. The school board's budget plan supports the improvement of literacy for all students and any intervention from a Southwest standpoint to allow us to move that forward. It also supports improving the writing initiative and the necessary intervention from a technology standpoint. That's important to do that, as well as implementation and utilization of benchmarking. You heard some examples of that earlier, but we must do more of that, from common formative assessments as well as benchmarks that come from us at the central level to measure student performance and progress, so that we can make real-time decisions early on in a proactive manner to plug the deficiencies that we know children have throughout the school year before the summative standpoint. Implementation of grade 7 at Crossroads, of course, we have to move those students up, and so everybody understands what that means. Additional funding to offset the school system share projected 8.2 increase in health insurance is a part of that. I will mention to you too that throughout this process, our study to build this proposed budget centered around implications for consolidating and or closing schools. Also, implications around the CTE High School, Comprehensive Technical Academy, and rezoning potential that could come into play with that. Also, choice implications with community conversations around what choice means throughout the city of Norfolk, as well as reducing the number of high poverty schools across the division and working on the things that come into play with that type of work being done. The way that that was presented throughout this current budget was at the level where we have an RFP that is already out to secure a demographer to take a look at all of those variables that would come into play around school capacity, size of schools, current number of students in those schools, what will it mean to rezone to secure CTE High School once we get to that point, implications for the community conversation. So we expect a comprehensive report around all the variables that are important for us to begin to do the work transforming this system and moving us forward. With that said, I would defer to Dr. Thornton to come forward to give some brief remarks around the nuts and bolts and bottom line numbers as it relates to this budget.
Thank you, Dr. King. Mayor Frame, council members, Mr. Jones, good afternoon. As Dr. King indicated, I will provide you with a very brief summary and overview of the school board's approved operating budget for 2013-2014. As you know, the school board's approved budget for 2013-14 totals $308.8 million. This represents a net increase of $3.4 million, or 1.1% when compared to the current year's amended budget of $305.4 million. In terms of the major revenue sources, this plan would request $114.4 million from the council in local support for next year, which represents a $7.3 million or 6.8% increase over current year local support. This plan also, as you know, the last several years, the state has not provided this level of investment that it is legally required to, and this particular request indicates that the state would provide just under $600,000 in additional support for next year, which is 0.3%. In terms of additional revenues, this proposal includes $5.4 million in projected carry-forward funds. This actually represents a $4 million decrease when compared to the level of reliance on those one-time revenue sources in the current year budget. The school board understands the importance of bringing structural balance back to its operating budget. And in doing so, it is reducing its dependency on those non-recurring revenue sources by, again, $4.1 million. The school board is doing this because it recognizes that the use of carry-forward funding is not a long-term fiscal strategy, but it also provides an opportunity to mitigate additional job loss as we go forward. So again, total operating revenues, $208.9 million, representing a $3.4 million increase, just over a 1% increase compared to the current year. And you also have here a summary of the proposed expenditures by major program category. If we were to look at all of the areas, including instructional support right down through information technology, nearly 97% of total funding directly impacts classroom instruction on a daily basis from the time that we pick children up and transport them safely and efficiently to school to the time at the end of the day after their activities that we transport them again safely and efficiently back home. This next slide provides an outline of how this balanced budget was arrived at. Considering that our base revenues for next year total $296.2 million compared to our current base expenditure budget of $305.4 million, the school board understood that it needed to make some very difficult decisions to align with its priorities, strategies, and goals as we go forward. And among them, Dr. King has shared, I will not go into detail, but it also includes providing one reading and math specialist at each of our elementary and middle schools going forward. It also includes other initiatives related to compensation and trying to mitigate the ongoing rising cost of health insurance for our employees, 8.2%, and this is part of the consortium with the city and the housing authority as well. Again, our beginning budget gap, where our projected expenditures exceed projected base revenues, $23.1 million before any adjustments or reductions. And this next slide provides an outline of those budget balancing strategies to include a reduction in non-school-based operating budgets totaling $2.6 million, as well as the elimination of one-time expenditures funded with prior year carry forward, $1.9 million, the reduction of 45 non-school-based staff positions, including administrative positions, as well as administrative support positions in the central office, totaling $2.5 million. Also, a reduction of our base operating costs based on recent historical trends in utilities, workers' compensation costs, and part-time substitute expenditures of $2.5 million. And then the final two budget balancing strategies, we will again employ a retirement incentive offering to our eligible employees that we believe will result in a $1.1 million reduction in our compensation base going forward. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, the reappropriation of projected $5.4 million in expenditure savings realized this year that will be categorized as carry forward revenues for next year. Again, creating a balanced budget based on an additional local support of $7.3 million from the City Council. Again, bringing the total operating budget for next year as approved by the school board on March 26th, $308.8 million. Also, this final slide here just provides, we recognize, as you all do, that 13-14 represents 1 year in our planning, fiscal planning, resource planning, and we know that we have other opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. Of those, we have outlined here, continued implementation of the 5-year strategic plan, increased expectations for student achievement and teacher staff performance. Also, the implications of sequestration, which to date we do not know the specific details, but we knew that it will have an impact on us going forward. Also, the rising cost of employee benefits specific to Virginia retirement system, as well as health insurance costs, and maintaining a competitive position in the regional employment market, as the city manager mentioned in his presentation. And of course, again, discontinuing the use of non-recurring funding sources to again bring back more structural balance to the school board's budget. Dr. King.
And again, these things are built around a very important notion that we realize that we have to make the bold decisions and do the work in a way that it will allow us to begin to transform the system, to position ourselves for 2013-14 to be able to begin the work of moving the system forward in a direction that will allow us to become world-class. So overcoming challenges will require, of course, time. It will also require resources, courage, and commitment. Simply put, we're the third largest as it relates to student enrollment among 5 divisions in Southampton Roads. Also, our free reduced lunch rate is at approximately 67%. That's 67% of our students qualify and classify as economically disadvantaged. That, by the way, is the highest in Southampton Roads. It exceeds the average by 18 percentage points. I only mention that not because that is a variable that should prevent moving student achievement forward. However, I mention it because it is extremely important as we plan and to move student achievement forward and as we plan around our strategic process. The average poverty rate in Southampton Roads is 47%, in the neighborhood of 47%. We're at 67% and fluctuating in terms of that piece. Per pupil expenditure, at this point, we're the second lowest in the total per pupil expenditure in Southampton Roads. Also, of course, you know that's the amount of money that's spent per child. And we know that through our studies as we did the work of building our budget. Average teacher salaries, we know we need to be able to retain, attract, and support, promote, build and develop the very best as it relates to classified and certified personnel. At this point, we're the second lowest in the Southampton Road area for average teacher salaries. We trail the statewide average by about $3,000. We trail Chesapeake and Virginia Beach by about $5,000 a year. Of course, it goes without saying the changes in revenue as it relates to the state and the reductions that are there. And I only mention that because these are things that we had to factor in as we considered it a non-negotiable in terms of building a product that was going to allow us to begin the work that's necessary for our approximately 34,000 students when we include pre-K and early learning. With that, I will conclude and ask Dr. Houston to offer additional comments.
Thank you, Dr. King and Dr. Thornton. I know this is a lot of information that you received in the presentation today, but we think that it's important contextual information to really consider everything that that we have to consider as we plan our budget. And one of the things that was really important, there's two things that was really important to us, and that is really important to us, and I'll say this and I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor Frame. One, we had to ask the question, does the budget support and advance the district's priorities? And if so, how? Then does the budget move us forward in the direction of our 5-year strategic plan so that we could address the areas of weakness, those students that are performing below grade level, those schools that are not fully accredited, and does it also provide us the opportunity to continue providing enrichment and expanded opportunities for our children to have an education that prepares them to compete in this global society. And so we had to look and make sure that the use of our resources specifically aligned with our priorities and with our strategic plan. And to be quite honest with you, what we found is that this really just scratches the surface. But it is extremely important to us that we are able to advance the cause and move the district forward with the resources that we have, how we align them and utilize them. With that, thank you again, Dr. King. I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure, and can I just ask one prefatory question? And Doctor, I asked our manager the same thing, so I mean, this isn't, are all the numbers that we've given, are they as current as you? I mean, there are no additional state funds that you're aware of, Doctor? Are the federal funds holding firm? Are they going down? That's my fear.
Right now, we're assuming that federal funds will remain the same for our major grants because we do not know from the Virginia Department of Education what sequestration will result in for us.
Insurance costs, Mr. Manager, you said that you said 8%, but is it 8.2 or is it 8? I know there, and when you built your original budget, Dr. King, you were looking at a 10.6% increase. Is it 8 or 8.2 now?
It's 8.2.
8.2, so that's okay. Rollover funds. I know you're concerned about being structurally balanced. We all appreciate that. We have the same concerns. Is there any increase there? And that sometimes changes almost daily. Because last year you were up like 9 million or so, I know.
What we have provided, the 5.4, is based on what our projections are based through the current third fiscal quarter of the current year. That's not to suggest that in the fourth quarter we might see some very nominal increases beyond that. But as I shared with our board, what we don't want to do is create a rosy fiscal year-end situation upon which these budget decisions are being made. So to answer your question,
Yeah, the manager
is
just
our
said the
best.
same thing to us upstairs. He said in his budget message.
So it's consistent with it?
Yes, it's
So I'll
exactly
stop
what
right
he said. Okay. The category other for revenue is flat. Was it flat a year ago as well, or did it have some increase in it? And other would be funds you generate yourself and through different fees, and I mean, do you really expect it to be flat?
Last year it's pretty consistent. Yeah, we've got some areas where we anticipate some increases, but we also, again, we have our indirect cost that's directly related to our federal grants, and sequestration could also impact that level. So we think, on a whole, it's going to be pretty level where it is this year and what it's been historically.
For what it's worth, I was in Washington all day yesterday, and at the Pentagon, and one of the conversations was about sequestration, and everybody up there is building their budgets around the fact that they don't think it's going to really occur. If it does, and everybody falls off the cliff. But all the Defense Department, spending is really pretty, they think they're gonna fix that sequestration thing. I don't, then they step back and say, of course, if we don't, we're in a horrible place, so I hope we'll be okay here, so. Okay, I just wanted to get some up-to-date information. Any questions from any members of the
Yeah,
council
yeah.
want to get started? Mr. Ritter?
I think the first thing I want to say is that the last time you were here, Chairman Houston, along with the school board, you painted this rosy picture, and then 2 days later, there was a newspaper article that showed that our school district was in shambles in terms of success. And it's information that you had 3 or 4 months before it was published in the newspaper. And although I haven't had a chance to call you, I was extremely upset that you sat here and gave us this rosy picture, but you had this information from the state showing what we really were. Dr. King, you had just gotten here, so you're not, they had the information, I guess, a couple of months before you got here, but I'm sure they shared it with you. And I just want to say that I was, upset, that you sat here with that information, and we had to find out about it in the newspaper. One of the things that, since I've been a member of council, is that we tell the city manager, and is that we don't want to find out what's going on in the newspaper. And so I just wanted to give you that first. But in regards to the success of our children, and I know we're talking budget issues, I strongly believe, and I always have, that early childhood education, is the key. And our last 2 governors felt the same way, but they did not put any money in budgets to build centers that are dedicated for early childhood education. And somehow, in our efforts to build new schools, we need at least 2 more schools that are dedicated to early childhood education, whether we build them or whether we renovate a school that's capable of handling a 3-year-old for early childhood education. In addition to, they say the success of a child by the 3rd grade, the vocabulary of children is something that's very important for their success. And so I think we have to really look at the fact that we're missing the mark. We're missing the mark. And so we just need to, get serious about it. Another thing I want to mention is that I've got several concerns, but how we allow our young girls to dress this time of year is ridiculous. Now, my youngest son, goes to Granby High School, and thank the Lord he was inducted into the National Honor Society last night. And I drop him off every morning, or either his mother drops him off every morning. And last week, one of our first days that it got warm, I dropped him off at school. And this little girl that I saw, who was very generously endowed, had on some of the shortest shorts that you ever want to see. My concern is that, coupled with the morning after pill, that they just allowed these young girls to get at 17 years old across the counter. Are we adding to the early sexual activity, which could lead to more sexually transmitted diseases? I think we need to get these girls to cover up. You always have these people who are going to the American Civil Liberties Union saying that, you can dress the way you want to dress. But I believe that if we are paying $5,500 for a student to come to school, that we can insist, and if not, we need to go to court. Because this morning after pill is going to be the 3rd pill to add to the sexual revolution that's going on in this country. And it's just ridiculous that we don't make these girls cover up. Even last night at for the National Honor Society induction, some of those girls had on skirts that I thought they were entirely too short for what they were doing. So this is something that I think we need to get on. Let me say, I got a couple more things. The creation of this highly technical school, which I believe is being driven more by the Greater Norfolk Corporation than the school district. I understand that the price tag might be around $79 million. And you're looking at the possibility of using Lake Taylor as it is, tearing Lake Taylor down and building a new school right there. I'm of the opinion, and I've shared it with some others, and I'm gonna share it with you now if I haven't in the past, is that the Votech school that we have on Military Highway has enough property around it to build a facility there. Now, I know that your enrollment for your high school students is a concern, and we're saying that we probably don't have enough enrollment to have a sixth high school. But I believe that if we're gonna spend $79 million, then we need to look at that facility, which can be torn down and a nice technical school can be built there. I don't, I don't want this board to let, your school board, to let the Greater Norfolk Corporation drive this thing. I mean, you're the school board that we appoint. So, and Greater Norfolk is who I believe sometimes can be a shadow government, and we just cannot let them drive what you expect us to fund. Okay, and I know, Paul, you're a strong member of Greater Norfolk, but I say that to you as well, that it's a shadow government, and this is a good effort, but we cannot let them drive this train. We got to drive the train. And in your remarks, if you could just tell us. One thing about Dr. King, I'm glad you don't equate poverty with the fact that the number of students that we have getting free or reduced lunch with a student success. While it plays a significant role, it does not prevent our children from being successful. The free lunch program is the oldest social program in this country. Of course, it didn't get to our schools until the 1960s. But I think that, we need to realize, I was looking at Melissa Harris Perry, and she, in that, how can you expect a child to perform if they're hungry? And so, it's very, it's something we need to realize. In one of her remarks, how can you expect a child to pass a math test, if they're sitting there hungry, their stomach is growling? So, there are a lot of issues that are very important, and the budget is very, very important, but there's some basic things in regards to education and successful education that we need to focus ourselves on. It's a shame that that money is the driving factor because of sequestration, the lack of state funding, and the funding that we have to get from other sources, and that's a driving force of education. But somehow we have to overcome that, in my opinion, and make sure that we have a successful school district. And so I'll relinquish the mic and I'll come back in a minute.
Okay. All right, Dr. Houston, did you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Riddick, I'm not sure, but with all due respect, you're referring to about a rosy picture that we presented. I think the last time we were together was in the fall. Mm-hmm. All the results were already out by that time regarding the accreditation of schools. The optimism that we shared in the spring was related to our graduation completion index because of the work of the graduation coaches that were in our 5 schools. We anticipated some increase in the graduation rate, which we did get, and actually one high school was able to achieve accreditation because of that. But in the fall, in terms of we have just a few indicators regarding how our schools are faring. Accreditation, which is based on those SOL scores, and of course what we use internally, benchmark testing, end of course grades. And one of the things that's important to us as well, of value to us, is that we present the facts. And I'm a firm believer the facts are your friends. So it's certainly never an attempt by this board to present a reality that is that is untrue and not accurate. And that's never our intention. We say to the staff, we want the facts, and certainly when we present publicly, it is important to us to present the facts as they stand and to deal with them accordingly.
One other thing I want to say, I want to qualify that Reverend Houston is one of my good friends. I strongly support him, but I'm going to look that information up and bring it to you.
Okay.
Sure to you.
All right. You want to say something?
No,
real quickly, to your response on the clothing, when you call a parent and the parent says, I didn't see anything wrong with what she was wearing, that tells you where the problem is. A deeper question about closing schools, and I've brought this up every year for the last couple of years. at some point, there's a reality that we might have more school buildings than what we need. And I know it's a hard thing to address in picking which schools need to close. I volunteered one for you the last time we met, but I understand you have to have places to put those kids and move. Where are we with that, with your demographer? And look, I know I think you've hired a demographer, or you're in that process. With the board and the conversation about where we should be moving with that. And both Dr. Whibley and I have discussed multiple times that the current stock of school buildings, that when money is made off of those, that it should go back to the schools. And I think there's others on council who feel that way as well. But there might even be opportunities with some of the potential schools that could close. They're in prime locations for future redevelopment, that we can get that money back quicker and be able to use towards school construction or maintenance. And I don't know who wants to address that, or.
Well, I mean, as I stated earlier, we had moved forward with that. So it should be a matter of weeks before we're really off and running with the community conversations, with the group meeting with the board, also taking a look at the capacity of schools and that kind of thing, and close proximity and what that means, you know. Because if we're going to close a certain school, then we have to move the students that are there to another location. And many times that will produce a domino effect. The right way to do that, the best practice around that, is to have those community conversations early, to give the rationale to the community in terms of why we're doing what we're doing and what the benefit is going to be. So that's why it is of vital importance to have the recommendations that are going to come forward. And I would say a matter of weeks. Dr. Thorne, any other update in reference to the timeline for that rolling out?
No, I think you hit it late spring, early summer.
So
It's probably not feasible to use that to address anything in this year's budget. This is something that would be longer term, probably, because it just, we're playing a little bit catch up with the numbers.
I would think that it would be long term that would impact the upcoming budget, only because of the domino effect that comes into play with the number of families that are impacted by that. You want to communicate that to them early, let them know what the plans are, and in some cases involve them in terms of being able to give input and feedback. That's the best practice around doing it. I've seen it done other ways and done abruptly and very quickly, and it didn't fare well. So.
And the other piece to that is that we're really striving to plan long range with everything and not do things piecemeal. And so if it's going to require us to redraw some lines with regards to zoning and redistricting for the closure of a school, we want to look at how that's going to impact the entire district. And we want to look at equity as it relates to socioeconomic status, not continue to create higher poverty centered schools. And so this plan from the demographer will enable us to really look at the long-range plan and make a decision based on where we're going in the next 5 or 10 years, and not make a move here and then have to come back and do the same thing again 1 year or 2 years later.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, one of my concerns has always been that we really are not addressing the MGT study.
Right.
I mean, there's a focus to build schools, but it's like chipping away at an ice block, and that there's no way that we're going to be able to rebuild all of the schools that we need to build in the amount of time. But if there was some way to generate an extra source of revenue that could go towards some heavy maintenance of some of the buildings, not every building needs to be torn down and rebuilt. But there are some buildings that you put a couple million into, you could really keep their structure and add some technology and infrastructure in there. I know the MGT studies it gets older every year, so it'd be nice to see some better numbers with that. You know, I've heard some conditions of Maury High School and where that's going, and that's going to be a big expense down the road. You know, I'd like to see maybe the city manager come back with more of a recommendation of a tax increase. If it was going to be lockbox to school construction or something, I think going out to the community and having those conversations with them, it's a seriousness of purpose. We need the community to back us and have an understanding that this investment in schools will pay off in the long run with economic development, building up the quality of our neighborhoods. And we've got to let them know how bad it really is. You know, I look at my daughter's school, and on this timeline, it wouldn't be opening until 2018. I was there the other day at the school. I don't know if that school could last till 2018. It's unfortunate, but it's such a big issue, and I know you guys have your hands full too with that. If we can get better numbers eventually on it.
And I'm going to go to the vice mayor, but I just these demographic studies, and I know you have to make decisions with the future in mind, but you cannot get yourself frozen in trying to collect data, so much data that you don't move. I mean, sometimes, and I've been part of it myself here in City Hall, we have overplanned stuff, and by the time we've gone through these exercises, which go years, all of a sudden the data's old and we got to start again, and conditions have changed. We need to build some schools. We need to close some schools. We have excess capacity. We have old facilities, and we have some schools with 300, one with 200, with 300, and some with 600, 700, 800. We need to. I think we need to do better. And you inherited this, Dr. King. I know that, but I just think there's an imperative to moving on some of this stuff.
That was one of my questions. I was going to say, when are we going to start building schools? We continue to sit around the table, and we talked about the Campostella School, and the question is, when are we going to start? The funds are there. In terms of the other schools, there's still work that needs to be done. To me, for me, we still haven't established the attendance zones as relates to the Broad Creek area in terms of, we're going to say create neighborhood schools, which they did for elementary schools back when, and you're building a new school. You have to look at that. And then the other thing, you got to look at the future growth, working with NRHA, how many homes that are planned for that community long term. Because the last thing you want to do is build a new school and then have trailers a year later. So you want to build a school to be able to impact the community that's there today and there the next 5 or 10 years. And so, if we're going to start, we're talking about, from a budget standpoint, a 2-cent hike, and we're, talking about trying to expedite the school building process. But while we're doing that, we need to start having these neighborhood discussions. And so we can get to that sooner than later, because we're stuck with our feet in the mud. And, we really need to get going on this issue.
We ought to get, you're right.
Last night, we met with a group of parents from Campostella and took them on a tour of the Crossroads School. Answered questions, talked to them, we're planning charrettes with them. We are already in planning stages to expand the Berkeley Early Childhood Education Center so that we can move the pre-K children and the kindergarten and first grade children over to that center. We're going to be redoing the Dreamkeepers Academy so that we can put the older children from Campostella over there. And we're looking at a fall teardown of the Campostella School. Because of the layout of the Campostella School right now and the footprint that we have, we can't build the school at the same time. We have to use part of where the school is right now to avoid wetlands and such. So we're in the planning stages with that. So we are moving forward with the Campostella School, and we are also having conversations about moving forward the school at Broad Creek in addition to that.
Have we, in terms of the budget, have you guys looked at what programs you would restore? For example, the middle college program, or, I know you
Dual enrollment.
have looked at.
Yes, dual
Have a
enrollment.
chance to
Bring
look
that
at
back.
it.
Is it safe to say that by this time next year, the long-term plan will be in place with rezoning, redistricting?
Absolutely.
Which schools
Yeah.
or earlier?
Yes.
We were saying we couldn't, there's some obvious ones. Like one. We don't think that could slide into this year. That's what, $1 million or something right there.
800.
Willoughby is not quite that much.
Yeah, it was 600 to 800. Yeah.
We don't think, that was in obvious. You want to wait till all the numbers come in.
Right, well, we expect to definitely have that plan in place well in advance of this time next year.
You ought to have the whole amount in place by
Right,
that.
that's the entire
at the latest.
process should be
Yeah,
in
that's what it
place. Probably within, hopefully a 6-week period of time, once the entity comes into play to do the review.
So not in time for any savings this year, I guess we're saying.
That I would doubt, because of the variables that will come into play. I mean, I would guess that depending on what the recommendation would give us, that there's a possibility that could impact us, but I doubt that. I don't anticipate that, not in that time frame.
I'll make one more comment and then Dr. Stewart. In keeping with Tommy's comment a moment ago, I mean, we learned, I guess the last couple of days, I guess the council got the information that if you were to add 2 pennies to the real estate tax, because the real estate values are still declining, and if you just left the decline, folks would pay 27 bucks less on 2 cents. But if you added 2 cents, an average homeowner with a $200,000 house would only pay $13 for that over the course of the year for adding those 2 pennies to build these 2 schools. That's a fairly low threshold. I mean, $13, that's pretty good stuff. I mean, if you've got I mean, you can start thinking about needs and what you can do with another penny or another. You can talk about it. I'm sorry, Dr. Stewart.
Many of these questions that are being raised right now are questions that you raised last time we were here. And we're very close to having a response that I think you're going to be very excited about. MGT study began to set some facilities directions. The stabilization that Dr. King and the team has brought in the area of curriculum instruction is critical. Last spring, we completed a facilities analysis, a strategic facilities analysis to enhance teaching and learning with technology. All of these pieces are there, but it needs to be coherent and coordinated. We had to await the final results of the study for the CTE. So now we're when's the next meeting, Dr. Robinson?
Our next master plan meets April 24th.
April 24th, we will be discussing all these pieces. And Mr. Riddick, it's very exciting that your emphasis on early childhood issues and locations could come into play because of the school combining. We're not going to close any school and send anybody away. We're going to combine facilities. I worked for Governor Beliles and Governor Wilder in that area. I worked with Governor Kane in that area. And that's certainly a major part of our conversation as we're looking at school combinings and what we're going to do. These issues are within weeks. Unfortunately, Mr. Wynn, they don't seem to correspond to this year's budget cycle. But we're very close to giving you some of the answers that you had requested in the fall, and Mr. Protojaro had some requests. I think you're going to be excited when you see the results.
Any other?
Yeah. I just, I kind of like the glass half full side of things. And the number one priority that you put out consistently is to make sure that all of our schools achieve full accreditation. And having said that, I think that will fix some issues in terms of fully accredited schools draw attention. Attention means that people want to move into the city of Norfolk. And, just from my professional standpoint, that's a plus. That means that real estate values will not decrease, they will increase, which means that whatever 2 cents we put on will be a 2 cents in an increased value. That being said, in your planning for redistricting and combining schools, I like combining better than closing, combining schools. Just keep in mind that, again, and it kind of goes back to what the Vice Mayor said, in looking at the future and looking at the progress that we will be making with our students and with the fully accredited, that's just going to draw people. Accreditation rates have been, up and down, declining or whatever far along before I got on council. But they're turning around and they're going to be moving in the right direction with your leadership and the 5-year plan and all kinds of other things. But just keep those things in mind, because when accreditation rates go up, people will start to wanting to move back to Norfolk. And larger droves than they already do. And so we don't want to have schools that are not going to be able to accommodate, or class sizes that are too large for our students. The other thing that I wanted to address was you mentioned decreasing the out-of-school suspension for students. And maybe one thing that you may want to look at, our church, I go to belong to Grove Baptist Church in Portsmouth, and we do a program that is with Portsmouth Public Schools where they take children who are in out-of-school suspension and basically kind of get the lesson plan and the homework or whatever, from the teachers, so that those children are still getting instruction, because if they're out of school, they're not learning, but they're also have the potential to be disruptive. So it puts them in an environment where they can still continue to learn and not be disruptive, and their parents don't have to figure out what to do with them when the parents have to go to work. So maybe partnering with one or two or three, like strategically across the city, churches that have the capacity, the ability, the membership to maybe have volunteers or what have you to be able to do that might be something that would be helpful to the school system, so that when those children come back to school, they're not behind because they miss 2 or 3 or 4 days, whatever. The last thing that I would like to just chime in on, you also mentioned improving writing. And I hope, and I may, it may be something that's already in place, but I would just hope that when you're improving the writing, that we're teaching our children the difference between formal writing and the texting and, all that kind of, I mean, really, because it's very easy to get the two confused when you really don't know the difference.
Sure.
And when they're young and they're in the formative, stages, they really don't know the difference, and they may not have the resources at home. I could not speak improper or incorrect English at home. So I had that resource and reinforcement at home. Every child doesn't have that. So I'm just hoping that we are teaching them the difference between what is appropriate in a text message to their friends and what is appropriate for formal writing when, say, they're writing an essay for college or, something or another like that.
Sure.
And Angela, the school system has made available a program called My Access, which is a writing program, and it's kids write essays, and it's actually submitted and then graded and comes back.
Do we have a demonstration of that?
And the English,
okay, that's
the
program.
English teachers,
Okay.
there's also Achieve 3000, but the English teachers are very satisfied and happy with the programs and what it teaches the students.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes. I'd like to, I caught the tail end of the manager's presentation upstairs and skimmed through a little bit what's in here. I would just like to ask the council to, in your deliberation, to consider fully funding the budget request that we've sent. Part of that budget request when it comes to retaining and attracting our teachers, highly qualified teachers and effective teachers, allows for the district to go through a year of stability. A lot of us have talked about the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys and, this information and that information, but part of what I've been able to hear in my short time on the school board is we have some schools that are considered hard to staff schools. And those schools typically are also high poverty schools. And so what we find is, at least from my review of the data, is that oftentimes as soon as you are able to get the children to the point where they can have success, we have staff turnover. And so the part of the effort around trying to make sure that we retain all the staff that we have, it allows us to keep that intellectual capital, it allows us to keep continuity with our schools, and it allows a lot of the recommendations that Dr. King and his team have been building over these last 7 months to really take root, so that when we come back next year, we can really talk about a different story. We also mentioned the literacy and numeracy coaches, the class size issue, the safety nets. And if you look at those outcomes that are on the right-hand side, all of those things are really based upon research and data, and to try to move the district forward. I'm in support of trying to build new schools. I think that's important. But I also just like to point out that some of our higher performing schools are our most physically challenged schools. Some of our newer schools, when it comes to academic performance, aren't doing so well. So when we talk about, we call it a demographer, it's really more complicated than that. When we talk about combining the school building and the physical climate, the teacher morale and the climate in the building, the student population, the academic rigor, and all the other things that the administration has put forward, it really is a mix, a magic mix that has shown to produce results not just here in Norfolk, where we know we have schools that are doing extremely well, but also around the country. So I know we've had a lot of different classes. My daughter was at the Honor Society program too. I made her change 3 times before we went. But ultimately, at the
Good dad.
at the end of the day, I think that if we can really give some attention to the request that we've put forward, the basis for the request, the outcomes that we say we want to achieve, and if for some reason we find that we aren't able to get to where we want to be, then talk about which outcomes do we want to consider sacrificing in this next year. I just think that we've had a top team that's come in. There's been some turmoil. They've uncovered some things. I think that may have been part of what Councilman Riddick was alluding to. But if we can get a year of stability and get the community as a whole to do this investment and allow us to work together to produce results, then I think we can really have anchor institutions of academic excellence all across this city that serves our neighborhood well and serves our city well.
Is there one last thing? We didn't talk about this, but I know you guys had some conversations with state legislators concerning some of the schools that weren't accredited. Lindenwood, have you guys come to some understanding of what's going to happen? The state is not going to take our schools, or?
I can comment on that.
Okay.
Well, we don't have the definitive answer yet in terms of what that's going to mean. I feel as if the state doesn't know how they're going to actually do that. They're building a committee they're going to put into place, and we have 2 schools that will be candidates, and so that will be Ruffner and Lafayette Winona, and so
Lindenwood is not one.
Not in the report that I received. It wasn't. Now it's changing, but it depends on the final that they roll out. We did have an opportunity to meet with officials from the Department of Ed at the state level, as well as legislators in Richmond around this, to talk about the measures that we already have in place. And so we have some visits this week to take a look at what we're doing and to determine, and I think that will chiefly determine what the next steps might be. So hopefully we'll have some answers on that real
But
soon.
nothing, we're not gonna read over, one day the state has come in and taken a couple of our schools. There's a process, I'm assuming, that has to take place.
Absolutely, and when we find out, you'll find out.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Okay.
Dr. Roberts.
We're waiting on those answers.
I just want to echo what Mr. Jordan said, because he and I think a lot alike, and then we think very divergently, we have a division that has many needs and many challenges. We've outlined those for you. There are also many bright spots. Between the specialty programs at the high school and the middle school levels. Last year, the graduating class of 2012 earned $30 million worth of scholarships. That's something to be very proud of. We had 2 Gates Millennium Scholarship winners, one from Lake Taylor and the other one from Booker T, correct?
That's right.
We had 2, I've just found out that, heard through the grapevine that Moria has 2 Merit Scholar winners this year. So we are moving forward. We feel that we have the proper leadership in place. This school system's been in turmoil for a number of years. And now we're getting the ship turned around, and we have the utmost confidence in Dr. King and his team to do that. And as Mr. Jordan stated, if you invest in the schools, people will invest in the city, and that's what everybody's going to win.
Paul, can I ask you?
Sure.
I've been kind of blocked out of here. I had two questions, and
Then we'll
I'm
go to-
asking
then we'll go
them
to Steve.
of the board that I haven't heard yet from you all. I've seen this budget, but I want to know from you all, is this what you need to make progress? And if you feel this is it, this is enough, like I'm reading 80 instructional or literacy teachers, one per school. Well, it would seem to
That's one math and one reading.
it would seem to me that there's some schools that could use 3. And so just kind of okay, maybe 2. Okay.
No.
But I'm just kind of this cookie cutter approach, and are you doing that because it's going to be something that we can swallow? Or are you doing something because this is what you need to go forward? So I'd like to hear that from you all. I really am very pleased with this presentation. I think it's our best dialogue for a very, very, very long time. But I need to hear from you what you all need and what is going to get you to those 5 strategic goals. And then secondly, I think you've heard this from me before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm totally in support for 2 pennies. I could be in support for 5 pennies. But I'm not positive that building 2 more schools is our best bang for the buck. We've got to have dry schools. We've got to have technologic schools. We've got to have bathrooms that work. But there are plenty of school systems that don't build 1 or 2 schools every 3 to 4 years, and yet they do very well. And I would be very much in support of 2 to 3 to 5 cents if you needed it to spend for something that's going to academically push us ahead. And I'm not hearing from you all whether you think 2 new schools is it. And if it is, I can support that. But personally, I feel we would do much better to use that pot of money to push the academics ahead and perhaps spruce up some of the buildings that we have in the financial. So do you have an answer for that, or is that like herding cats?
Steve?
So years ago, MGT said we needed $750 million to develop our school infrastructure. That's one piece. Tommy talked about chipping at a block of ice. It's chipping at a glacier. I mean, so the other piece is we have 10,000 roughly students who are reading and or doing math below grade level. We would ask you as a board to fully fund this budget, but to look at it as the down payment over the next few years, because, you know, we're talking with the increase that we asked the city, roughly $300 per student who is below grade level at this point in time. You're asking, and I love this conversation because we're all talking about the same thing. You're asking if that's enough money to turn us around. That's the beginning small sum that we as a board believe is necessary to begin to turn us around. Anthony, you were talking about building schools, and we've all talked about building schools not for now but the future. And, you know, we talk about, well, there's $22 million, I believe, set aside, is that correct, per school in the 5 schools in 6 years. And we don't want to build schools that when they open aren't future oriented. I mean, we have to build them for now, and I was a little bit involved when we built Monroe, and the day it was opened, it was not sufficient for the needs of the community. So we're asking you really to fully fund this budget as literally the down payment on the academics. Because next year, we're gonna have, 10,000 kids this year. Let's say we get down to 8,000 kids next year who aren't reading on grade level. 70, it's like 1 to 70 in terms of the number of new teachers we hire against the number of kids who, are reading and doing math below grade level. So to answer your question, this is not enough. This is the beginning of trying to fix the cuts that have occurred over a goodly number of years.
Well, let me, and I don't want to be, heavy, but I mean, the cuts that have occurred have been largely state cuts.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, let me, because you look around, because you're looking us in the eye, okay? The money from the city has either stayed firm or, we all need to be good stewards, and I'm convinced a building that was built in 1929, Terry, you are not going to patch. And after a while, those kids are just starting, the parents will go too, and I don't, because
Right,
the
but so far
environment.
it's performing better than any school in the country, in this system.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
you
just,
and I can
Paul,
debate
if
that. I
money
tried
was
to make.
falling out of trees, then we could build 1 million new schools, but they're not. So why can't we
But
get the
let
best
me-
bang for our buck?
Well, I'm trying to get to that point. The manager has talked about some strategies. He's proposed $3 million in his budget, and the council's still got to debate that. But he's talked about some strategies, how you might get where you want to be, and still hire the 80 teachers, and still do everything in the classroom that you need to do. And I think you need to look at just things like, privatizing the custodial pieces. Things that are not, we're not talking about, a math teacher or something like that. Just look at ways that you can save money so we can bring this together. You've got, in your budget, there's $5 million for these new, for the 80 math and 40 math and 40 reading folks. Does that assume every one of them will be on the job July 1st? Is that
That's
what
our
that's?
intent.
You'll be able to hire 80 people on July 1?
That would be our intent.
I know, I know, but we all manage our monies. We all do that. Even the manager manages that. That is $62,500 a teacher. Is that what that would cost? Dr. King, is that what that would cost? Okay.
Yes, and it also
Okay,
means to the point that was asked earlier about the vital need. It means that it allows us to not just address the needs of the thousands of students that are below grade level, because that's about the safety net. But I mentioned earlier that there are children that are already performing that we will be able to provide the enrichment around and give the flexibility to move those individuals to locations as we need it on a monthly basis based on what the analysis tells us. That's why that's important. So everything before you is centering on the needs of the students, real-time results.
That wasn't my question. All I'm saying is we all need to be good stewards.
Well, that was something I thought was important to your question.
Well, it is, but we all need to be good stewards of the public purse. That was my point,
Yes.
and I don't know
Oh, I
if you
agree
can
with that.
hire 80 teachers that will start July the 1st. When you hire teachers, when do they typically start? When you hire a new teacher, would they normally start the 1st of July or the 1st of August or the 1st of?
First year started in the fall.
Teachers all throughout the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul, I would say, I don't think that they probably-
I'm
I don't think they
just saying you gotta
probably
help
have a
us.
shortage of
We don't wanna,
applications for teachers.
go ahead.
Can I suggest, and the manager had we all about getting our education system, we're all on the same page. He had some suggestions, as Paul mentioned, some of how we bridge that gap in the janitorial thing, privatizing, scrubbing old dormant accounts. Have you been through everything? I know 1 year, I know that's not a long-term solution, but it's a bridging the gap solution. We did it this year with the city, and we've done it a couple of years and found dormant accounts with money that hadn't been spent, that type of thing. I mean, if we got somebody, Sabrina, that can sit down and go over these ideas and not affect the quality of the education. I mean, they seem to be reasonable. I'm not on the school board, I'm not an educator.
You know, I'm happy to hear that, but I can say, you know, any entity can take a look at another's budget and determine recommendations for how you can change. You know, and I'm sure that we can do the same as we take a look at your budget as well.
I'm not
You know,
insinuating that you didn't do the proper job.
I
I'm just
understand that.
saying
I understand that.
it's easy to say what we need, and we gotta get there.
Sure.
And
We're all in it
there
for
were
the
good
same reason.
suggestions in our budget that may or may not work. I mean, privatizing, I don't see, I don't know how that could possibly negatively influence.
And that's something we've talked about, you know, what are the pros and cons of that, and then how long would that, you know, really considering that, how long would that take? Because it's not just about the facts and figures, it's also about the service and quality of service that's being offered as well.
Y'all got a company managing you now, because you guys don't have any equipment.
Right.
So you use their equipment, they manage the people that you have.
Right. But the people work for MPS.
Right.
The employees actually employed by MPS.
Right.
Okay, two quick things. The first one is about the recommendation to delay the salaries till January. I had a little bit of heartburn when I heard that. Teachers are required to maintain certification. City employees, a little bit different. Not every city employee has to be highly qualified, whereas teachers have to. And I do have some issue with that notion that we have to be equal with city employees. I know it's hard to go to city employees, and I respect what they do, and I'm in favor of salary increases. But teaching is a different type of profession, and the amount of work and time that has to go into just maintaining that, to delay that, I think is an insult. I've already heard from teachers based off of the headline. It's kind of an insult to say that we're on an equal playing field with city employees. The second thing is, I'm curious with the school board's opinion in this budget that you received. There's $500,000 that's been put in for constructing a field house for Lake Taylor. And I have some concerns about making that a priority right now when we have issues such as hiring math and reading specialists. I love Lake Taylor High School, and I'm proud of what the football team did. I'm concerned that there could be something happening with that school in the long term, so why invest that money? Booker T deserves a field house too. I just think that, you know, right now that maybe at a council level when we continue our discussions, I don't necessarily think that that's a priority of the school system. And I'd like to hear that from you, because this is something that could be included in future design plans of Lake Taylor. $500,000 is a lot of money, and football does generate excitement and things, but it doesn't generate the money that I think that investing in our teachers and our schools would. And so I'm just curious the opinion of school board members on that budget item in there. Anybody want to?
I just want to say how excited we are. At the next few weeks, we have a meeting talking about strategic facilities analysis study and what we're going to do to have a coherent and coordinated plan for facilities. And certainly that will be one of the items that will need to be discussed. Where to put early childhood programs to enhance the early childhood training will be there. School combinings will be there. CTE will be there. That occurs, I believe, Dr. Robinson, on 24th. Following that time, we should be able to give. I think each of you had raised questions last time. You raised them again this time. Mr. Protojaro raised some questions. I think you'll be excited with holistic and coordinated answers.
I appreciate your answer, but I need an answer from the school board if the field house is a priority, because when we start discussing this in the next 4 weeks, council can move that $500,000 into a different line item. And if it's not a priority for the school system, I would like to know that so that we can, that's $500,000. It's not a.
Well, we had a lot of things that we did around here that weren't priorities.
Let me say, if this school board has the same sentiment as the ones as a particular board in the past, we wouldn't have a field at Booker T or at Lake Taylor. So we decided, meaning the city, that we were going to build them. And so this would be the same thing. We're not going to give the school board the money and let you make your choices. If we build a field house, you know, we're going to build both of them. So, you know, you don't even have to worry about whether they, you know, what they want to do, because if we do it, we can do it. Anything, anywhere that money to play with.
I agree with that. We were told if you give us that, you know, if you want, you know, if you're gonna spend that money, spend it on computers. And we said, we understand that, we're gonna spend, but we're also gonna, so. Okay, all right, well, I think the discussion's been healthy. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you for all that you do for us and for our children.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Houston?